it's time to bring in a Lightning insider of lightninginsider.com. It's Erik Erlendsson. Erik, thanks so much for joining us here today. Game 5, big game tonight down at Scotiabank Arena. For years with this Tampa team, confidence has been riding high. Have you seen a shift in that confidence after game 4?
Not really, honestly. It's a reflection of the coach, right? Like we say a lot of times when a team takes on the identity of their head coach, and John Cooper is a very confident person. He just always has been. He's always got that kind of swag about him, and I think his team has that as well. For what this team has been through the championships and the adversity and everything else they've had to deal with, specifically the last 3 years. They're not going to go in scared to lose. They're going to go in trying to win a game, and if anything, you look at the way that the first 4 games of the series has played out, that's where they kind of build their confidence from because they've played well enough to be up 3-1. They're not, which is probably surprising to them a little bit because of how these games have sort of transpired and played out, especially the 2 games in Tampa. But they've played well enough in their process that they talk about all the time to be able to win these games. They just haven't. So that's where the confidence kind of comes from, is that eventually they have to feel that you keep playing that way. Maybe you'll get the break. Maybe your tip will be the one that goes into the back of net and beats the key goal in the game, as it has been for Toronto.
Yeah, and I think that should be a big concern for the Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of talk has been how the Leafs have been able to come back and win these games they probably shouldn't have won. But like you said, I mean, Tampa's outplaying this team in this series. When it comes to Vasilevskiy, not the greatest series, but I do believe he actually hasn't been as bad as people may think. I think with the Leafs screening him as much as they have been, a lot of deflected goals in the net. Would you say that Vasilevskiy is kind of taking a drop down this series?
Based on his norm,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, he's been one of the best, if not the best in the world. And you think of his closeout games and everything else he's done to help this team win a couple of Stanley Cup titles. But I went back and I looked at every single goal Toronto scored against Vasilevsky in the series last year, and the goals that they've scored this year. They've scored 6 goals off of tips, and that's a credit to the Leafs. They're getting pucks on sticks, but let's face it, sometimes those pucks skitter wide. Where they hit a post or, the goalie's there. They've done 3 backhand tips, which are hard for goalies to read, including the game winner for Alex Kerfoot there in game number 4 in overtime. Those are hard for goalies to stop. You don't like, if you're Andrei Vasilevskiy, if you're a Lightning fan, you don't like the Morgan Riley winner in overtime of game number 3. That's a shot that, a goalie's going to stop 99% of the time. You don't like a couple of the shots that from Marner or Matthews that have kind of come above the circles, but other than that, I don't know if you can sit here and pin this on Andrei Vasilevskiy. Yeah, the numbers look ugly. I know he's somewhere around 5 goals under goals saved above average, which is not good. But it's a 4-game sample, and he's still Andrei Vasilevskiy. We've seen spurts of that during the regular season this year. So again, that's where you kind of have to maybe hang your hat on a little bit. That things if you keep playing the right way, things will turn around for you if you're the Lightning.
Andrei Vasilevskiy said the other day, I don't know, maybe I need to get some bleeping X-ray glasses to get through the Leafs, front net, front presence. But we talk about that, and there's a glaring hole on the Lightning blue eye, and that's Erik Chernak. Do you think that the Leafs being able to crash the net like that is directly correlated to the Lightning missing Erik Chernak?
Well, there's no doubt they miss him. I don't know if it's directly correlated, but when you lose a guy who plays 20, 22 minutes a night, who's one of your top penalty killers, actually, he was their top penalty killer in terms of average minutes per game. His big body, he can clear guys out. That's the one thing that you really miss with Erik Chernak. And look, I think Darren Radish has been really good in this series. I think Nick Perbix has been really good in this series, but they're not Erik Chernak. Erik Chernak is 6'4", 230 pounds, and just full of muscle, and he can just move guys out of the way. That's how strong he is. So there's no doubt they miss him. I fully believe that the Ryan O'Reilly tying goal in game 3, if Erik Chernak was on the ice, they probably don't give it up, because I think Chernak can move O'Reilly out of that space and not allow that puck to be loose and for O'Reilly to get to. So there's no doubt they miss him. But as John Cooper has said, and I agree with him, they've played well enough without Erik Chernak to win, but there's no doubt when you're already missing the players from last year that you don't have, most notably Ryan McDonagh, and then you're going to lose an Erik Chernak, 2 periods into the series. That's a big loss, and it's hard to replace that in the type of role and the type of minutes that Erik Chernak plays.
Yeah, there's no doubt this is a completely different series if
Mhm.
he's in the lineup, like Erik said. the Detroit Red Wings head coach, Derek Lalonde, he had some things to say about Andrei Vasilevskiy and how he manages shots from the point. So a lot being talked about right now is, did Lalonde give away Vasilevskiy's secret? I don't think that's so much the case, but what did you think about his comments?
I mean, look, you're not giving away Area 51 secrets here, right? Like it's not anything that nobody in the league knows. And I saw somebody point out, I mean, look, the Leafs and the Lightning have known they're going to play each other since probably November, if not by December. So behind the scenes, they've done some work, and it's no secret if you just go back and look that Andrei Vasilevskiy is susceptible sometimes to long range shots. That's only because he's so hard to beat down low. I mean, everybody will make mention of, hey, everybody's beating him high blocker, high blocker, high blocker. Well, of course, because you can't beat him down low. So where a guy's going to try and shoot, it's going to be to the high blocker. And, again, looking at this series, the high blocker hasn't been an issue. I think only a couple of goals have gone in that way in this series. Maybe last year's series, a couple went in that direction. And as far as what Derek said, I think the only thing that probably maybe irks the Lightning a little bit is that, you shouldn't talk about the team you helped win a couple of Stanley Cups with in that manner in a public setting. I think that's what kind of upsets the Lightning a little bit. And, John Cooper used the phrase, you have to be accurate in what it is you're saying. So I don't know if he's kind of implying that maybe he was stretching the truth a little bit, or maybe it didn't happen or whatever. But it's not a good look for a former coach to be who's a current coach in the NHL as well, to make those sort of comments in a public setting. But I don't think he gave away anything that nobody knew already.
I don't want to go deep dive into my conspiracy theory from yesterday as to why this is taking place, but I want to go back to John Cooper. And you mentioned earlier that the team really embodies his messaging. And I found throughout this whole series, John Cooper has always backed his players, and stood up for them, and not Andrei Vasilevskiy in particular. Do you think that the messaging of John Cooper can help this team really get back into this series and take that one game at a time mentality?
Well, it's not going to translate to wins or losses just by what you say, right?
Mhm.
But the one strength of John Cooper that, I've kind of gotten to know since he joined the organization, really since he joined the organization in 2010, he's been the head coach here since 2013. He doesn't tear down players. He doesn't break them down. He believes in his players. And I think that belief goes a long way into the confidence level that they have. I think back to game number, I think it was game 2 against the Islanders in the 2020 bubble playoffs, where Blake Coleman made a mistake. He tried to blow the zone too early, left the puck wide open, and the Islanders tied the game. So rather than pull him off the ice, sit him down, talk to him, or berate him, or whatever it is, what's he do? He throws that line back out on the ice. They go down and score a goal to put Tampa Bay back ahead. So it's those type of things that John Cooper has the belief in his players. And he's such a positive guy. He's got such a positive influence on everything he does with the players. And look, I'm sure there's moments behind the scenes where and maybe his emotion comes out, and maybe he does have those moments. But for the most part, you talk to any of the players, he is so good at, even when you're pointing out the negative, in his case, he finds ways to find humor in it and not make it sound as if you're tearing a guy down. And then you kind of build them up to an area where they just feel comfortable and confident in their game. And that's a big strength of John Cooper. Look, he said many, many times in his career that X's and O's are not his strength as a coach. His strength is managing players and understanding how to talk to players and deal with players and make them feel comfortable. I remember Tyler Johnson, when he was here, he played for John Cooper in Norfolk, and kind of got into a conversation about it one time, and he referred to John Cooper as a friend. I mean, how many players refer to John Cooper as a friend, or a head coach at any level as a friend? So you kind of get the understanding of the relationship that he has with his players, and that's because of the positivity and the way he believes in his players. Even if players leave here, he's always going to have that relationship with them.
Eric, where you at with the Tampa offense? I mean, just a goal apiece between Kucherov and Steven Stamkos. I mean, I don't want to say that they're underperforming, but do you believe that maybe Cooper thinks he needs an extra gear from his top guys?
Well, you want to see them perform. I mean, they're the top players. You want to see them put pucks in the back of the net. But at the end of the day, the Lightning have scored enough goals in this series to win, right? I mean, obviously you got 7 in game 1, but you get 3 in game number 3. That should be enough. You have a 3-2 lead with a minute to go. That should be enough. You score 4 in game number 4. That should be enough to win. And Kucherov was, I think he has 6 points through 4 games. So he's contributed offensively. Braden Point's got a couple of goals. So they don't have the offensive depth that maybe they've had in the past couple of years, but they've gotten it in this series. I mean, Corey Perry has 2 goals. Alex Killorn got 2 goals the other night. Ross Colton has a goal. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare has a goal. Anthony Cirelli has 2 goals. So, they're not down in this series 3-1 because they're not getting enough offensive production. I think they've gotten it team wide. But there's no doubt your top guys, maybe on that 4-on-3 power play opportunity they had at the start of the third period in game number 4, maybe if one of those guys steps up and scores a goal there, we're talking about a 2-2 series. So they didn't come through in that situation, but even still, they were up 4-1 at that time. You don't blow 4-1 leads because you're not scoring enough offense. You blow 4-1 leads because you're not doing enough defensively to keep the puck out of your net.
Right. We're speaking with Erik Erlendsson, a Lightning insider. What have you seen from the Toronto Maple Leafs in this series that you really didn't see in the previous one?
Attitude. They just have a different attitude about them. We were talking a lot before the series that the Leafs were favored. There's no doubt that the Leafs are favored to win this series. But then you thought, well, hey, go up to Toronto, steal a game, put doubt in their mind. Well, they stole game 1. Didn't put doubt in their mind. The Leafs, rallied back and answered with a blowout win of their own. Yeah. You had them down 3-2 after the Leafs were up 1-0 and 2-1, and he came back and took a 3-2 lead in the second period. They didn't quit. And the epitome of it is the 4-1 game. 10 minutes to go in the third period, they just keep pushing. And that's something that maybe in years past you weren't going to see from the Leafs team, at least from an outsider's perspective in watching this team. And then I just, I listened to Sheldon Keefe in some of his comments, and he's kind of get that attitude too. And maybe that's rubbing off on his team. Maybe Ryan O'Reilly's influence in that locker room has kind of rubbed off on him a little bit because, when Kyle Dubas made all those trades to bring in everybody at the trade deadline, everybody was questioning, what are you doing? This team isn't going in the right direction. It looks like they're wanting to play better defensively. They're kind of got that commitment to playing defense. Why are you bringing in 5-6 new players? But I think a lot of it is because those players weren't here for some of the failures of the Leafs playoffs past. So they don't care about it, right? They don't care about the history. And I think that's helped rub off on guys like Marner and Matthews in particular, in terms of when things got tough in this series for them so far, they haven't wilted. And I think maybe in years past they did.
Yeah, I mean, you have guys like Ryan O'Reilly, Noah Chari, Luke Shen, Matthew Knights have been the best players in the series, and they haven't been here for a very long time. Before I let you go, I have to ask you, predictions for tonight. The Leafs get it done, or are we going back to Tampa?
I'm so bad at prediction.
Me too. I'm sorry I had to put you on the spot.
I'll say this. Everything we kind of talked about in the first part about the confidence that this team has, they are going to go out and put together a performance that's going to allow them a chance to win this game. Does that mean they're going to win? I don't know. I mean, you could get another puck that's going 5 feet wide that ends up in the back of your net, right? Like those things kind of happen against you in hockey. But I do know this about this Lightning team, this group, and everything that they've been through. Just as we saw in game 5 against Colorado in the Stanley Cup final, they're not going to fold under the pressure. They're going to go out and put themselves in position to win a game. It's just a question of whether they can, play good enough defensively. Don't take power plays, or penalties, because the power plays have given the Leafs some life in this series. You go back to the third goal in game number 4. Stay out of the box a little bit and put yourself in position to try and win a game. And I think they'll play well enough to win it. They won't be intimidated by the crowd there for sure. They weren't intimidated by the crowd in Colorado last year. But they'll give themselves a chance to win the game. And that's, as a coaching staff, as a fan, that's all you ask out of your players.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Erik, thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy the game tonight.
I appreciate it, boys. Be well.
Thanks.